When Ling Zun and his party returned to Feian village with a full harvest, they immediately caused a great sensation. Snow leopard, one-horned lizard. Many villagers in the village had never seen such a beast with their own eyes, so when they heard about it, they all gathered around. Zuzong and the others are also very proud. After so many years of hunting, they have also hunted down an unknown number of beasts, but it was the first time they brought the body of a beast back home, and they could imagine how happy they were. At this time, in the courtyard where Ling Zun lived, various harvests were piled up on the ground, and a dazzling array of various spiritual materials covered the ground. But the most attractive thing is the skin, bones, tendons, flesh, blood, etc. The eyes of all the villagers fell on it, and their faces were full of amazement and envy. Although there are many cultivators in the village, such as Lian Rufeng, who is a strong man at the level of open house in Zhenwu Sanchong realm, but even Lian Rufeng has never hunted down a beast like a snow-spotted leopard. Not to mention the one-horned scale lizard, a beast that is stronger than the snow-spotted leopard. And when they heard that the snow-spotted leopard was hunted by Ling Zun alone, the eyes of those villagers looking at Ling Zun changed. A 13-year-old boy beheaded an adult snow-spotted leopard alone. For all the villagers, it seemed like they wanted to hear a legendary story, and they unconsciously felt a sense of awe for Ling Zun. Zuzong, you have harvested so many treasures. What are you going to do next? Someone suddenly asked. On the way, Ling Zun and Zuzong had already discussed the collected spiritual materials, except for a part of Ling Zun's own use, are used as materials in the village, and when there is a chance, they will be sold to the Qinyang tribe in exchange for other materials. As for the things on the snow-spotted leopard and the one-horned scale lizard, they will be used for their own use and will not be exchanged. After all, this kind of baby can't be easily obtained. Who would have the heart to sell it? Zuzong glanced at Ling Zun, saw the other party nodded with a smile. He immediately raised his chest, and said, everyone, I have discussed with brother Ling Zun. Although this snow-spotted leopard and one-horned scale lizard were brought back by me, but we are all from the same village, as close as brothers and sisters, and the flesh and blood from the two fierce beasts naturally have a share of everyone. Hearing this, all the villagers burst into cheers, and they were overjoyed. They never thought there would be such a good thing. You must know that although they are all villagers of Feian village, the property of each family is privately owned. It is not impossible for them to take out things and share them with everyone like Ling Zun. The situation where the beasts are all taken out and distributed to everyone has never happened. Ha ha ha, since that's the case, then give me a copy of the snow-spotted leopard's skin and blood essence, and the scales on the one-horned scale lizard. Suddenly, the crowd was pushed away, and Lu Ting strode over, swept his eyes greedily at the snow-spotted leopard and the one-horned scale lizard, and spoke loudly. Behind Lu Ting, the lean and shrewd Qian Chi also followed him at some point. He folded his arms and looked at all this with cold eyes. When his eyes occasionally swept over the spoils of war on the ground, he couldn't help but become scorching hot. Suddenly, the atmosphere was a little cold, and many people frowned. The things that Lu Ting saw were the most valuable in the snow-spotted leopard and the one-horned scale lizard. It was naturally disgusting that he asked for it so directly. Even Zuzong's face became ugly. He just said very clearly that the blood and flesh of the two beasts were distributed to everyone, and nothing else was included. However, Lu Ting didn't seem to notice other people's eyes at all. So he stepped forward and took it by himself. Zuzong couldn't bear it any longer and said, "Stop. These things are not yours." Lu Ting frowned, with a fierce look on his face. "Stupid, you are not cultivators. How could you use such treasures? Only in my hands can it be of value." Saying that, he grabbed the piece of snow-spotted leopard skin in one fell swoop, looking arrogant and arrogant. Glang! A blue-green blade was in front of Lu Ting, causing him to stagnate, his cheek muscles twitching, and he straightened up, looking at Ling Zun who was opposite him with resentment. "Do you still want to do it?" Before he finished speaking, he saw Qian Chi pacing with arms folded from afar. his expression icy cold. The atmosphere became tense for a while. Ling Zun said with a smile, "This is the beast I killed. You want to take something. Do you have my consent?" Although he had a smile on his face, the blue short blade in his palm pointed steadily at Lu Ting. "Yeah, this is brother Ling Zun's trophy." "Lu Ting, you are going too far." The others spoke in a snarky manner. Because Ling Zun helped eradicate the pest infestation in Lingshan, those villagers had already regarded him as their own, and naturally they would not watch him being bullied by Lu Ting. Lu Ting's face suddenly darkened, and he shouted violently, "Shut up! Do you have any reason to intervene here? Don't look at the fact that if I hadn't been guarding the village with Lian Rufing and the others, you wouldn't be able to live long ago. Now that I dare to help an outsider target me, I'm simply impatient." All the villagers turned pale, shocked and angry, but they had to admit that they did rely on Lu Ting and the others to deliver goods to the Kinyan tribe in exchange for the supplies they needed for life. It's just that in the past year, Lu Ting and the others have exchanged less and less materials, which has already caused the villagers to be dissatisfied and complained. It's a pity that the villagers can only hold back this kind of anger in their hearts. After all, if they want to survive in the future, they still need Lu Ting and the others to help them go to Kinyan tribe to exchange materials. Seeing that no one opposed him anymore, Lu Ting couldn't help sneering proudly, but when he looked at Ling Zun, his face became gloomy again. "Boy, give me a nice word. Are you going to give it or not?" Lu Ting's tone was obviously threatening. At this time, Qianqi also looked at Ling Zun, icy and terrifying. He didn't plan to tear his face with Ling Zun in the village to avoid public anger, but when he saw the snow-spotted leopard and the one-horned scale lizard, his greed couldn't be restrained, and he couldn't care less. This time, if Ling Zun dared to die, then Qianqi wouldn't mind giving the other party a painful lesson in front of everyone's eyes. Naturally, Ling Zun also noticed the unkindness in Qianqi's eyes, and couldn't help sneering in his heart. These two guys are really arrogant, and they even grabbed things so confidently. "Want it? It's very simple. Beat me first," Ling Zun said casually. His expression relaxed and calm, with a smile on the corner of his lips. "Court death." Lu Ting grinned, and glanced at Qianqi without a trace. Qianqi understood it, paced from one side, and blocked Ling Zun's retreat. Seeing this, the villagers were all angry. Who would have thought that Lu Ting and Qianqi would become so shameless and arrogant? Zhu Zong was worried in his heart, and whispered to Ling Zun, "How about give them some?" The implication is that the hero does not suffer immediate losses, and for the sake of his own life, he can only endure it. Ling Zun said firmly, "There is absolutely no room for negotiation on this matter." "Okay, that's how it should be." At this moment, a loud shout rang out, and the tall figure of the village chief Xiao Tanren appeared in the courtyard. Seeing Xiao Tanren appear, all the villagers were refreshed, as if they had found the backbone, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of Ling Zun's lips. If it is left at other times, Ling Zun will also choose to temporarily forbear, and then choose the time to find the other party to settle accounts. But now it's different. Ling Zun had long expected that Xiao Tanren would not sit idly by, so he dared to fight against Lu Ting and Qianqi alone. The appearance of Xiao Tanren made Lu Ting and Qianqi frown, but they returned to normal immediately. Obviously, they didn't care much about Xiao Tanren in their hearts. Xiao Tanren looked dignified at this time, glanced at Lu Ting and Qianqi, and shouted in a deep voice, "You two are so bold. You are robbing things in the village. Do you think I am not the village chief?" After a pause, Xiao Tanren said with a stern expression, "Today you robbed Ling Zun, will you rob other people's things tomorrow?" Hearing this, the other villagers were all shocked. Yes, this Lu Ting is so arrogant. If he grabs his own home in the future, what will he do? For a while, they looked at Lu Ting with a hint of uneasiness in their eyes. Lu Ting frowned, impatient in his heart, pointed at Xiao Tanren and said, "Old man Xiao, we have always respected you all these years, don't be shameless." In a word, Xiao Tanren's face darkened. Ling Zun, who was on the side, sneered in his heart, This Luting is really an idiot. Doing this will only make all the villagers dislike him. Okay, don't say it, we really misunderstood today, let's go. Suddenly, Qianqi opened his mouth, grabbed Luting's arm and walked out. What are you doing? No more snow-spotted leopard skin, no one-horned scales. That might make a good pair of armor. Luting shouted, struggling to resist, but was dragged away by Qianqi. Seeing this, Xiao Tanren's face was still ugly, but he was obviously relieved. Seeing all the villagers beside him were looking at him, he couldn't help being upset for a while, and waved his hand. Okay, it's alright, let's all leave. Everyone also knew that it was not appropriate to stay for a long time at this time, and they all left, and soon only Lingzun, Xiao Tanren, and Zhu Zong were left. Without outsiders, Xiao Tanren sighed suddenly. I didn't expect them to be so arrogant. Alas, Lingzun smiled and answered the question. Then Qianqi is a smart person. After knowing that you are here, they can't get any advantage. Xiao Tanren shook his head and said, this is only temporary. They couldn't grab it this time. I'm afraid they will find another opportunity to come again. Lingzun nodded, pondered for a moment, and then said, Xiaobo, what would you think if the two of them suddenly disappeared one day? The meaning of this sentence is that if I have the opportunity to kill Luting and the two of them, will you object to the village chief? Looking at Lingzun's clear and calm gaze, Xiao Tanren's eyelids twitched, and after a while, he said decisively, it's best to disappear, it's good for all the villagers in Feian village. Lingzun laughed immediately, and this was exactly the answer he wanted.